Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. It's easy to be seduced by the word model. After all, we have short memories. Just weeks ago, respected models predicted cataclysmic shortages of ventilators and hospital beds. That spurred the media to attack government for not doing more. Yet just a week later, the creators of the model that policymakers most rely on and that the media cites, the IHME model from the University of Washington, essentially said, never mind. The model's prediction of the lack of ventilators and hospital beds proved dramatically wrong. By the way, for every one of these assertions, I have links, so there will be a text version of this on Psychology Today at the link below, and you'll be able to, as of about 9 o'clock on April 15th, the former tax day, the text version will be available and the citations for everything I assert. The data is too subject to invalidity, that is, the data from models. Too few subjects, not a random selection of subjects. Assumptions about the percentage of people who will follow social distancing rules and so on. But most eviscerating to the predictive validity of models is what I call the monkey wrenches. That is, the factors that emerged between the weeks when the data was collected and when policymakers end up acting on the model's recommendations. Lest you think the monkey wrenches are few or minor, here are those I learned about just this morning. NPR reported that most people on ventilators die, and most of the survivors are very old and unlikely to have much quality of life for much longer. In a separate report, NPR reported that the coronavirus antibody tests produce many inaccurate results. That means that carriers can march around oblivious to infecting people, and that people not infected are worrying needlessly. CNN reported that a team of Harvard scientists concluded that unless a solid vaccine is developed soon, we'll need sustained or at least intermittent social distancing not just for months, but until 2022. That increases the likelihood of increased problems from domestic violence to supply chain shortages, which could cause the benignly termed social unrest, more clearly described as looting and home invasions. Speaking of supply chains, the Institute for Supply Management reported that in just the last 2 weeks of March, the most recent period studied, supply chains of input manufacturers doubled. In other words, it takes twice as long to get the parts or the components to the eventual manufacturers of the product. CNN reported today that 2,156 New York City cops have tested positive. That's up from just 100 as of March 24th. And as of last week, 20% of all New York City police officers were out sick. Politicians and the media have been reporting a flattening of the curve. But today, whoops, the highest daily number of U.S. corona deaths ever. And finally, healthcare workers, the group most likely to be wearing protective equipment, are dying at surprisingly higher rates, higher than government-reported data indicates. Multiply what I've just learned this morning by the rapidly unfolding situation with daily changed information and advice. And as individuals, we would be wise to not follow it so closely. And from a macro perspective, we have to very carefully weigh the economic costs of major expenditures and incursions on human daily life against what the models, created just a week or two earlier, says we should do. Especially in macro decision-making, logic, subjective experience, and, yes, data, must all get serious consideration in policymaking. My personal integration of data, logic, and observing qualitative experience suggests that regarding the coronavirus, we should reallocate government resources to support vaccine development and at-home self-testing, like a pregnancy test, in small, promising companies that are undercapitalized. Focus education and policing efforts regarding social distancing by census tract. Only a small percentage of tracts have low compliance. Jurisdictions with low incidence and a flat curve, especially those in which there are many jobs, should be reopened, but with social distancing measures urged or required. Large venues, such as nightclubs and sports arenas, should be closed until a solid vaccine has been widely implemented. And finally, instead of printing more money and increasing existential debt, return to the taxpayer all the money that is being spent on corona handouts, which are heavily ridden with fraud, like self-reported need for taxpayer money. Everyone, from experts on down, are still trying to figure out how to deal with this most complex problem. Given the rapidity of change, if we're to stay sane, it's probably wise to turn off the news as much as possible. After all, tomorrow, it'll be old news. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and I particularly like it if you hit the social media button, the share button below, so you share it on your social media. Therefore, my efforts have broader impact, and I'm always flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. And in any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.